Yes, everybody. Welcome back to YouTube. Welcome back to Threadman Chazza. A happy Thursday to you all. I hope you're all doing well. Here today ahead of the big game, obviously Manchester United against Barcelona at the Nou Camp. It's going to be a very interesting one. So please, guys, please do get in the comments. Let me know your thoughts, your predictions for the game. Feeling confident? What do you think the team news is going to look like? Anything at all? What do you guys think about the game today? How are we going to set up? Do you think we're going to get a good result? What would be a good result? There's lots to talk about today, guys. So please do get involved in the comments as always. I really appreciate all your support. As always, I appreciate it a lot. So yeah, what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the game tonight. We're going to talk about sort of the tactical preview of everything, what we might think, sort of what will be the setup from both teams, how Barcelona are going to set up, how I think we'll set up as well. So it should be a really good show. So as always, guys, please do get involved in the comments. Let me know what you guys think of today's game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a bit of a tactical pad type thing, and we're going to have a look at the sort of, we're going to break down the tactics basically of both teams. So you'll see here, we have got the tactical pad here. So this is our little tactical pitch view. You can see the two teams here. So obviously we don't know exactly how both teams are going to line up. So this is just sort of a prediction. So this is just a prediction really, how I think both teams might set up. So if you are watching right now, guys, please do smash a like. Please do get involved in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. How are we going to set up today? Do you think we're going to set up with this? So this is what I think we could set up with. I'm just going to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about Barcelona as well after. So obviously we expect De Gea to be in goal. Lisandro Martinez is suspended for this game, so he is not available. So I expect definitely Luke Shaw to come in at centre-back with Malacia at left-back. What happens on this right back area, I'm not so sure. We'll see how it goes in terms of Wan-Bissaka or Dalot. I'm going to talk about both, why both could be a good fit for this game. So I'm going to talk about that actually in a moment. I'm still not fully decided on that right back. If I was Ten Hag, I think that's quite a difficult selection there, right back. I'm going to explain why. Casemiro comes back in. So obviously we've missed Casemiro for the last few games, but he comes back in, which is obviously going to be interesting playing away at Barcelona like he did for Real Madrid. You know, how is that going to be atmosphere-wise? I imagine he's going to get a lot of booing and abuse off the Barcelona fans, but it should be very interesting to watch that one. And obviously Marcel Sabitzer is not available. So Marcel Sabitzer is not available for this game. So it'll be, I expect Bruno and Fred will both play. We've got Ollie Barton in the comments. Thanks a lot. I'm not going to show your comments just because I'm looking at this tactical pad, but we've got Ollie Barton in the comments, says, feeling it will be a tough match going for a 1-1. Look, Ollie, I think if we get a 1-1 draw out of this game, I don't think too many people will be complaining. And I never like to take a draw before, obviously we always want to win with Man United, but a 1-1 draw, obviously I'm going to explain why that will be a good result in a minute, but I think that would be good. And Alien Tenno, big up Chazza, GGMU, big up Alien Tenno. Thanks a lot, mate, for coming along. As always, I really appreciate the support. So let's have a look then. Let's have a look at both teams. So we've gone through the midfield for United, Casemiro, Fred and Bruno. That's what I expect will play. And in the front three, There's been a bit of a criticism around Wout Weghorst, but I do think Wout Weghorst will play. And then sort of Anthony's not in the, he hasn't been training, so I don't think Anthony will play. So it looks like it would be Rashford and Sancho for Manchester United in the wide areas. Now, this is not the team that I would play if Sabitzer was fit. So if he was fit and available to play, obviously he's suspended, I think, due to too many yellow cards, or something happened at Bayern Munich where he's suspended for this game. So Marcel Sabitzer isn't available for this game. I think if Marcel Sabitzer was available for this game, I think we would have seen this. So we would have seen, let's imagine Sancho is Sabitzer. So I think we would have seen something like this, where Bruno Fernandes would have started the game on the right-hand side in possession, sort of be towards this right half space on the right-hand side. And I think we would have seen Sabitzer play alongside Casemiro and Fred. Now, the reason being is if we look at the Barcelona team, this Barcelona team is quite reminiscent of Arsenal. It's got elements of the Arsenal and Manchester City team in it. So what I mean by that is if you actually look at the team already, you can see Gavi on the left-hand side. So due to injury, but also obviously we've seen Ousmane Dembele not available for this game, but also because of the quality that Gavi possesses on this left-hand side, what we see with Barcelona very, very often is the overloads in midfield, so the overloads in central areas. Now, this is something that Manchester United dealt with really, really well against Manchester City, all right? So everybody remembers that 2-1 winner. Well, if you don't, I know there's been a lot of games, but obviously we beat Manchester City 2-1 at home. And although obviously we got a couple of late goals, that was absolutely brilliant. But although, you could say we got lucky with the decision, or forget that. It's actually about staying in the game and causing Manchester City a lot of problems. And out of possession, we were really, really good against Manchester City in these central areas. So what we did, we had Martial in the first half. Imagine De Jong is Rodri here. So Martial was just in front of Rodri. And imagine Bruno is Eriksen. Eriksen was just behind Rodri. So we were stopping those central passes into Rodri. So obviously Rodri is a massive part of Manchester City's build-up, right? So we were using a cover shadow. We were using a player behind Rodri. And we were also staying really, really tight to De Bruyne. So Fred was incredibly tight to De Bruyne as well. So we were really, really aggressive against Manchester City's midfield. Just read out a couple more comments. So Alien Tenno says, that's exactly the same team I've picked. Yep, brilliant. Path says, love the threads you put on Twitter. Keep going, mate. Thanks a lot, mate. Really, really appreciate that. And Alien Tenno, Malacia shorter there to negate Rafinha's pace. Yeah, we'll talk about Malacia in a moment. That's definitely a great point there. But please, guys, do smash a like on the video if you're enjoying right now. We're talking about sort of how Manchester United can try and stop Barcelona, and what we might need to do and what Barcelona's threats are, etc. So this is quite an analytical video. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. So, as I said, we used, imagine De Jong as Rodri. So Manchester United against City, we really, really stopped that central circulation around Rodri. Now, obviously, that's a little bit more difficult if you haven't got as many midfield players available, because Bruno was playing on the right against Man City, and we had Casemiro, Fred, and Eriksen all in the midfield area. So obviously, even if you play a central midfield player or an attacking midfield player on the right-hand side, you can still use that player to come a bit more infield out of possession. So they're used to playing in central areas anyway. So what we did against Man City, imagine sort of Sancho is Eriksen. So we were staying really, really tight to Rodri. And then we had Bruno coming a bit more infield. So we were really, really tight in those central areas. We always had 4, if not 5 players in those central areas. So we had Casemiro, Fred, we had Eriksen where Sancho was, we had Martial where Weghorst was, we had Fernandes coming inside there. So that was a big reason why Manchester United stopped Manchester City sort of out of possession. We were staying really, really tight. We were closing those midfield areas down really, really well. Now, the issue is here, we haven't got Sabitzer fit, and we haven't got McTominay as well. And I know a lot of people don't like McTominay. We haven't got Eriksen as well, but still, it's not all about sort of the individual player's quality in possession. These big, big games, and especially we're still early in the Ten Hag process, a big, big part of our improvement this season has been out of possession, right? I think a lot of people would agree in the comments. Let me know if you do agree, but I think a lot of people would agree in the comments. we still really need to be scoring more goals. We could do a lot better with our goal ratio. But if you actually look at the goals conceded since, obviously, we had the first 2 games of the season, 6 goals, obviously Brighton and Brentford we conceded. But since then, we obviously had the hiccup away at Man City, which was obviously a massive problem there with the 6 goals we conceded. But if you think about this season, we've been a lot better defensively out of possession. And a big part of that has been our shape out of possession. And these little tweaks, particularly in big games where we've thought we need to have more in the centre. We need to make sure we shut off central areas. Now, what Alien Tenno mentioned, he mentioned about Malacia and Shaw to deal with Rafinha's pace. And this is a big reason why Ten Hag likes Malacia as a left back in these big games. So he started at home to Arsenal against in the home game against Arsenal. He started the away game against. I'm just trying to think whether he started that Chelsea game. I can't remember. I don't think he did. I think he started at home to City, and he's also started games like Leeds. So he also played in the Leeds game away. And a big reason why Ten Hag likes Malacia in these type of games against a very, very direct wide player. So Alien Tenno is right. So Rafinha is obviously extremely direct. And that's when Ten Hag likes Malacia as a left back. Now, obviously, we don't know if Martinez was available for this game. We don't know whether he would have played Shaw at left back or he would have still played Shaw at centre back, because sometimes this season Martinez has been available at centre back, but Ten Hag has preferred Shaw in there, right? So Ten Hag is not afraid to, although Lisandro Martinez is having a great season, he's not afraid to put Luke Shaw at centre back tactically to allow Malacia to come to left back. So this is going to be interesting to see how Malacia deals with Rafinha. I'm almost certain Malacia will play there. It's not a full certainty. He could play Maguire or Lindelof next to Varane, but I'm quite sure it will be Shaw and then Malacia to deal with Rafinha's directness. So I think that will be an interesting battle between those two on our left-hand side, Barcelona's right-hand side. I think Malacia against Rafinha will be an important battle, and Malacia is always very, very aggressive and intense out of possession. So we'll see how that goes. Red Dead United TV says, would you play Pellistri? I think I personally, I wouldn't, and I don't think Ten Hag will either. I don't think he'll throw Pellistri in for this type of game. If you think about it, Pellistri still hasn't started. I don't think he started a league game for us yet. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he started a league game. Certainly not this season. He hasn't started a game, and I'll be very surprised. Unless Sancho's injured, I'll be extremely surprised if he brought Pellistri in from the start. But he's a good option to have off the bench. So what else out of possession then? So let's carry on with the out of possession stuff, because United have improved a lot out of possession this season. We know that we're conceding fewer goals. We've done really, really well. So what other threats have we got to be aware of? Obviously, Robert Lewandowski, as Thomas Muller called him, obviously still a massive threat in the box. Not going to cause you too many problems in behind, but in the box, he will cause problems. But obviously, Rafael Varane. And to be fair, Luke Shaw's box defending this season has been really, really good as a centre-back. So I haven't got too many worries. Obviously, he could always score a goal. He was a great player. You could have a lapse of concentration, etc. But I think Varane and Shaw can deal with that threat that Lewandowski can cause in the box. Wan-Bissaka or Dalot is the one position where I'm not quite sure for this game, and I'll tell you why. I think you could argue both sides, because in this particular game, if you look at the way Barcelona set up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change. So we're out of possession. So I'm going to put I'm going to put them into their shape, how they'll be setting up out of possession. So how we'll be setting up out of possession, how Barcelona will be setting up in possession. So in possession, what you're probably going to see is something like this. Okay. So when Barcelona are in possession, this is probably something that you're going to see. So you'll see here the shape from Barcelona is quite reminiscent of what we've seen from Manchester United this season, and also what we've seen from Arsenal and Manchester City. So we've seen variations of this team. So you're seeing possession here. If you forget the goalkeeper for a moment, although he's a big part of the build-up, you've got sort of a 3-2-2-3 or a 3-2-5. So that is the shape that I expect Barcelona to have in possession. So when they've got possession of the ball. Now, we've seen a lot this season Manchester United trying to implement this 3-2-5, the 2-3-5 sometimes as well. And what's really, really interesting about this is this sort of box that Barcelona will have in midfield. So they'll have De Jong. If Kessié plays it with Kessié, Gavi, although he started on the left-hand side, he'll come much more centrally. So he's really a midfield player, a central midfield player, an attacking midfield player. So what you'll see is this sort of box shape. So you'll see this 4 in midfield. Now, Manchester United have struggled against this type of shape before. So if you remember the first game against Brighton this season when we lost 2-1, Graham Potter played a 3-4-3 with a box midfield as well. And it caused us massive, massive issues. Although we had McTominay and Fred in that game, it did cause us huge problems because the overloads in central areas, the quality they had in central areas compared to us was really, really stark. We've obviously got a bit more quality now, but I still would have liked Sabitzer to be available for this game. So it's going to be interesting to see our United setup. I would have thought we'll probably set up in a 4-5-1 out of position. So I imagine, let's get the ball. How do we get the ball up here? Tools, here we go. Here's the ball. If I can get it. Here we go. Here's the ball. Right, so let's say Christensen has possession. So this is what I expect from Manchester United. Sort of out of possession. This is the shape I expect. Now, let me get this up. For some reason, this ball isn't moving. This one is. Very interesting. Sorry about this, guys. Just a few tweaks. Right. So this is what I expect from Manchester United out of possession. Now, one interesting thing about this is the Barcelona left back, so Balde. So the Barcelona left back, if it's Alba or Balde, I'm not sure who they'll start, but that left back will hold the width. So Gavi is not going to cause Aaron Wan-Bissaka or Dalot too many problems one-on-one. He's going to come inside. He's going to cause more issues to Casemiro, Bruno, Weghorst, Fred, etc. The issue for Wan-Bissaka or Dalot is going to be Balde. So he's very, very direct down that left-hand side. They build up in a 3. So Araujo, Christensen, and Koundé, who plays as a right back, comes slightly inside. So Koundé, very much like Ben White at Arsenal, a traditional centre-back playing as a right-back, but in possession, very much forms a 3. So you won't see Malacia too often. You won't see him too often sort of having problems with a 2v1 with Koundé coming in on the outside. Koundé, I imagine, what we've seen this season from Barcelona, will stay deeper during the build, right? So theoretically, our fullbacks in this particular game, shouldn't have too many problems in those wide areas. We've seen a lot of times this season, sort of when you do play against this type of a team, whether it's Arsenal, Manchester City, you have to sacrifice some area of the pitch, right? We all know that if you put more players in the middle of the park, in those wide areas, you're going to be stretched more. You have to, it's all about trade-offs. That's what it is in life. You know, every day in our life, we trade doing one thing for another thing. We can't do everything we want to do in every day of our lives, right? And this is the situation on a football pitch as well. When you tactically set up a team, you cannot cover everything. You have to leave a couple of things a bit more isolated than others because that's just how it works. And yeah, Jordan said opportunity cost. Yeah, economics. If you know economics, opportunity cost. You have to, there has to be something that you have to give up, right? And I think in this game, Manchester United have to give up these wide areas and trust Malacia against Rafinha and trust Aaron Wan-Bissaka or Dalot against Balde on the left and right hand sides. The issue for Manchester United is going to be these central areas. Now, in order to stop these, you might think, well, how do we stop Barcelona in these central areas? Well, ideally, we would have had Sabitzer fit. So I keep saying fit, he's suspended. We would have had Sabitzer available to play. And Sabitzer would be where Bruno is, and Bruno would be where Sancho is. And we would have had you would have had more of a sort of a four central midfield players all playing at the same time, and you would have been able to cut those central areas off. What we are going to have to do, we're probably going to have to ask Sancho and Rashford to come a little bit more inverted in these sorts of areas here to try and stop these passing lanes, both into Pedri and into Gavi. So that's what I expect. So this is the shape I would expect from Manchester United. So it's sort of, It's sort of a 4-5-1, but it's very, very narrow. It's very, very narrow. And that's the way that I think Manchester United should set up out of possession. Now, as I said, you have to make sacrifices. Xavi, in game, might think, "Oh, Manchester United are cutting off these central areas. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a risk. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push Jules Koundé further up, further on the outside to give Malacia problems and try and pin Rashford back. Then when Manchester United obviously try and counter-attack, Rashford's pinned back. He might be able to have that sort of burst of explosiveness to make that run, but Rashford's pinned back now. So Manchester United haven't got an outlet. They haven't really got an outlet. He might drop Kessié slightly in here, and that might be the way that he might do it. So there's lots of different facets to this game. I'm just going to read out a few comments. Alien Tenno says Rashford won't get many chances. He has to take them. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute, how we sort of counter-attack, etc. Dallo is not 100%. IMO, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is the logical choice. Sancho is going to have to be busy to help Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Nice. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka should start today. Yeah, good comments, guys. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see if Manchester United do set up in this way, how Barcelona deal with it, because I think we can stop a lot of what Barcelona are about if we set up in this sort of shape. Now, obviously, Manchester United, it can't just be about how are we going to stop Barcelona. Obviously, Manchester United, we want to go there and cause them problems, of course. And I understand that totally. So obviously, there might be a time in the game where we think, or Ten Hag might even be brave and think, well, as soon as we get the ball, how can we counter? We're not going to try and hold any possession. How can we hurt Barcelona? So if we go back to, if we now talk about Manchester United in possession, so let's change where the ball is. Let's put it over to David De Gea. And let's bring Balde back. Let's bring Barcelona's players back in. And let's have a look at how Barcelona are going to try and stop Manchester United. So how are they going to deal with Manchester United's threats? Because obviously, as I said, we've improved out of possession. We still need to improve scoring goals, but Manchester United are still a dangerous team. And, anyone would admit that. Any manager in the world is playing Manchester United. We've still got a lot of threats. So let's think about how we can cause them problems now. So obviously, this is not a certainty. This team, we might not start with this team, right? This is just an idea. As I said, Erik Ten Hag is the man that will choose the team for tonight. I think at least 10 of these 11 players will start this game, though. I think the main thing I would say is Aaron Wan-Bissaka or Dallo, and we'll talk about sort of why one might play over the other, right? So we'll talk about that. So against Leeds, let's just talk about what happened against Leeds. So in the first game against Leeds, Manchester United very often pushed their fullbacks on and built up in a 2-1 or a 3-1 shape. So sometimes Dallo came in to make a 3-1. So with I know Casemiro wasn't available. It's just about the shape. It doesn't really matter about the personnel at the moment. But Manchester United built up at a 3-1, or it was actually a 2-1. And Leeds used Jack Harrison on Sabitzer. So this was Harrison where Lewandowski is. This is Sabitzer where Casemiro is. And Leeds had a cover shadow to try and stop Sabitzer receiving the ball. And they did a really good job of that, right? So Barcelona, and I've looked up a lot about Barcelona, right? I don't watch Barcelona every week. I'm not going to pretend I do, but I have done a lot of research on Barcelona in the last few days. Barcelona have actually got the second most highest turnovers in their attacking third in the La Liga this season. They've only conceded 7 goals all season, and they're more or less every single stat out of possession is excellent for Barcelona, right? So Barcelona are no mugs. They're absolutely no mugs. Don't think they're this wonderful team in possession and out of possession. Oh, they've got too many stars. No, they're a very, very good team out of possession as well. So this is going to be difficult for Manchester United, but this is how I think Manchester United could set up in possession. So against Leeds in the first game at Old Trafford, we struggled with the progression through the middle of the park. Against Leeds away, we also struggled with the progression through the middle of the park, even though we often built up in this 3-2 shape. So as we talked about, Barcelona 3-2-5 or 3-2-2-3, Manchester United will also look to set up, most likely, in a 3-2-5. what the issue is for Manchester United is we've firstly got David De Gea, who we know his deficiencies in possession, sort of building up. We know those. We've also got the problem here of Wan-Bissaka or Dalot. So obviously, the reason why I've put Wan-Bissaka in is I think Wan-Bissaka has got a very, very good. His performances in the Champions League, the Europa League, have normally been very, very good in these type of games, particularly away from home when you want to be a bit more secure. Obviously, a lot of people think Wan-Bissaka is an excellent defender overall. I actually don't think he is. I think he's very, very good one-on-one. I think his recovery pace is good, but I don't think he defends the back post well. And I think in build-up, I do think he is a problem. So ideally, what we'd want is when Barcelona have the ball, we want Wan-Bissaka in the team. When we have the ball, we want Dalot in the team, right? So I'm just going to put Dalot in here. And as I said, this is the one position I'm not quite sure on for tonight. Dalot or Wan-Bissaka, I'm not quite sure what Ten Hag's going to do for this game. I think there's pros and cons to both, and this is the problem. I think we haven't got a right back that we can trust in every single game, and I think that is a shame, really. But that's the way football goes. You know, you can't have perfect players all the time. So I'm just going to put Dalot in here just to see how the dynamic might change in possession, what Dalot could bring ahead of Wan-Bissaka. So let's talk about Dalot then. So obviously in possession, Dalot is a lot more comfortable sort of under pressure. Now, Wan-Bissaka, when he's under pressure with a little bit of space ahead of him, he's got good body feints. So that's the sort of the way that Wan-Bissaka can evade pressure. But Wan-Bissaka's passing, his press resistance when he's under pressure in terms of his passing, his forward passing, is not as good as Diogo Dalot's, right? And when you're under intense pressure, you can't really turn away from pressure with the body feints, with your quick feet when you're under that much pressure. What you can do is, where's that out ball? That's when you've got a little bit more leeway to play that out ball than you have to dribble out of that situation. So that's why I think Diogo Dalot, this is where Ten Hag's got the big problem. You know, he hasn't, the thing that you could say for Dalot, he hasn't got a really direct player against him one-on-one. With Gavi's going to come inside anyway. So that's where you could argue Dalot might play, but he might think, I want a bit more security out of possession, so I want Wan-Bissaka. So there's pros and cons, right? But I do think in possession, Dalot would help us a lot. So let's say Dalot starts in possession. We've got this 3-2 shape. Now, against Leeds, we still couldn't build out from the back. We couldn't handle their pressure. Against Barcelona, they're going to come at us again. They're going to press us really high. They might leave Varane open. So when Varane's got the ball, they might just say, well, I'm not really going to bother about pressing you too much because I know, and we know Rafa Varane, he's got his strengths, etc. But we know that Rafa Varane he's not the best on the ball. He can play some nice passes at times, but under pressure, Varane can struggle in possession, right? And obviously every player can, but he's not the best in possession for us, Rafa Varane. So I do think they might just let Varane have the ball like Leeds did. And when it goes to Shaw, they're going to put him under more pressure. He's more of a threat. Same with Dalot. Now, I think the key for this game, and this is the massive thing for this game, I think Wout Weghorst is absolutely vital for us. A lot of people, rightly so, in the game against Leeds were saying, why don't we play it long to Wout Weghorst? Why don't we play it long? Obviously, he's 6'6". He's a very, very tall profile. Why don't we just pump it up to Wout Weghorst? Now, managers have certain principles, and Erik Ten Hag is obviously he's a manager. He's been a player before. He wants to stick to his principles as much as he can, right? But obviously against Leeds in that second half, he put Wout Weghorst right deeper. He put him right into this position. We had Rashford that went to 9. We had, imagine this is Garnacho who went to left. So Ten Hag is not afraid to make tactical changes. And in this game, we need more outlets, because although Casemiro is decent, he's okay during build-up. Under pressure, he can struggle at times during build-up, but he's okay. When he gets a bit more space and time, Casemiro's passing is really, really good. His forward passing instantly into forward players. But he's not the best under pressure. So this is why I think he might adopt Malacia again as an inverted fullback in there during build-up to make a 3-2 again. So that's something I think he will do. But like against Leeds, like I said, away at Leeds, even though we had 5 or 6 players, maybe not De Gea, he's not really a big part of our build-up, so 5 players in this build-up area, we still couldn't break through Leeds. So what happened in the second half, obviously Leeds tired a little bit, but Weghorst came deeper. And what that allowed us to do was to get the ball under control. We had a pass into Weghorst's feet. Weghorst, although he's 6'6", funnily enough, he receives the ball better to feet than he does in the air. His chest is quite good, but when he receives the ball towards his head, Wout Weghorst, he's actually not that good in the air that you'd expect. Not as good as you'd expect for 6'6". He's much better than you'd expect for 6'6" with his feet. Right, so for 6'6", he's incredibly technically gifted, right, for a player that tall. So I think in build-up, you may well see Wout Weghorst just dropping a little bit deeper. Can we, Frankie de Jong and Kessié both, I think, sort of in transition, they're not particularly good, but particularly Frankie de Jong, sort of his defensive awareness is not the best. Although I'd love him at Manchester United. Obviously, we've got Casemiro now. If we played Casemiro, De Jong and Bruno, or De Jong and Eriksen, that would obviously be an incredible midfield. And what we'd lack with De Jong in terms of his awareness, we've obviously got Casemiro to make up for that. But we could get a bit of joy out of Wout Weghorst just sticking around Frankie de Jong, trying to, if we can get the ball into Wout Weghorst's feet or into his chest, and looking for Wout Weghorst to play. He very often passes a short pass backwards to Bruno, and then Bruno with a long ball in behind for Rashford. Or Weghorst to Sancho, a little 1-2 with Sancho, gets to the byline and put it across him. What Wout Weghorst is not particularly fantastic at is turning forwards and then impacting the game when he's under pressure. When he's got a little bit of space, he can do that. But I think when he's under pressure, I think he turns backwards a lot, which is absolutely fine if he keeps possession. It keeps us, or he wins a foul, it takes the pressure off us, right? But I think if Wout Weghorst can drop a little bit deeper onto De Jong, can we get a bit of joy there? For certain we can. So I think that could be a way we might be able to evade a little bit of pressure. Also, I do think Ten Hag, as much as possible, although we might play a slightly longer pass into Weghorst's feet, Ten Hag, as I said, is a manager that likes to stick to his principles for as long as possible. We've seen Ten Hag make some crazy substitutions, some incredible tactical elements, some tactical changes. We've seen him change some nice things in game after about an hour, after about 70 minutes, etc. But I think for the first half, we will try and play through Barcelona when we can. And if Diogo Dalot can play, obviously he's very, very good progressive passer, a quick ball into Weghorst's feet, a quick layoff, and then a ball in behind for Marcus Rashford. So I think that's where Manchester United could get joy in this game tonight. I think Weghorst around De Jong, that could be something that we could work with. What else could we talk about? Obviously, Marcus Rashford against Koundé one-on-one. That's obviously going to be, I think, these two battles. So Koundé with Rashford and Rafinha with, obviously, Malacia out of possession will be here, I'd imagine. So that's obviously going to be fascinating, those two battles there. Two very direct wide players against two aggressive fullbacks. That's going to be really, really good. But obviously, Marcus Rashford's on terrific form. What will be interesting is to see if we can isolate him against Jules Koundé. I think Wout Weghorst, I'm going to read through a few comments. Jordan says switches from right to left will be key. Yep, that's what we're going to talk about now, how we can isolate Rashford. You look like Harry from Simon. Okay, thanks a lot. Path, big up, bro. Big up, Football Power Hour. Sapling Lad, big up, Adrian. Alien Tenno, people don't give Weghorst credit. Yeah, that's certainly correct. And we're going to talk about Weghorst now. So Weghorst hasn't received enough credit for the way that he takes players away from other players. So if you read my thread after the game against Leeds, you would have noticed that Weghorst dragged a defender towards him, which left more space for Marcus Rashford, who obviously finished it brilliantly in the air with a header, but still, Wout Weghorst was the one that took that defender away from Rashford. Now, what will be interesting to see is whether Wout Weghorst can we open up a bit more space for Marcus Rashford and isolate him against Jules Koundé? That's sort of the interesting point. And I talked about Wout Weghorst against De Jong. And I do think Wout Weghorst against Christensen, sort of in this area as well, could be something that we could look at. If we can, as I said, if we can play through the press, a quick pass into Weghorst, a quick pass back. He obviously he normally passes back to somebody else or sideways to somebody else. If we can get Weghorst sort of in this channel against De Jong and Christensen, and then we can get Marcus Rashford obviously running in behind, that could be an area where we could obviously hurt Barcelona. I don't think Weghorst will fancy his chances against Araujo on this right-hand side, because Araujo is a lot more aggressive than Christensen. He's quick. He's he's a massive threat. He's a massive threat. And I don't think Araujo, I don't think Weghorst will fancy his chances all that much against Araujo, to be honest with you. I think he's a very good player. So I do think Weghorst might be able to get something out of Christensen. I really do. And let me just switch these. Sorry about that. I've made a mistake. I put them on the wrong side. Apologies. So Christensen's on the left and Araujo's on the right. Sorry about that, guys. So I set that up wrong. So let me take that back. Schoolboy error there. So Weghorst will fancy his chances against Christensen rather than Araujo. And I think that's where sort of Araujo might be able to help Jules Koundé out here against Marcus Rashford. Now, if Weghorst can get up against Christensen, get back into Christensen, try and play a pass off to Bruno, this is then when we can try and get the joy with Bruno's sort of long passing, direct passing in behind to Marcus Rashford, right? So I think that is where we can get some joy. Sorry about that, guys. I've got the two players mixed up in terms of their positioning to the left and the right centre back. So it doesn't really change a lot. It just means what we can do is Weghorst just in this channel instead, and can he play a pass back to Sancho Bruno? Can we play a nice 1-2? And can we try and get Marcus Rashford in these sorts of areas in behind? So it doesn't really change a lot. It just means that Weghorst just will probably come out to this right-hand side more often than he will the left, just because he'll fancy himself more against Christensen and De Jong here than he would against Araujo and De Jong there, right? So that is something I think we will do. Now, what's another thing we might do? So in possession, obviously Barcelona send Balde really high. So Balde will be up here. Now, we know that Jadon Sancho is not the most direct player in behind. You know, he prefers to come to feet. We know that he's not the most direct player in behind. He can make those runs in behind, but it's not his forte as such. But what will be interesting, if in game, we've often seen Ten Hag switch the wide players. So we've seen him switch Rashford Sancho, Rashford Garnacho, Sancho and whoever it might be. They switch sides. We've seen Anthony sometimes go to the left, Rashford to the right, etc. So what might be interesting is if Rashford is not getting any change out of Koundé, and if Sancho is not getting any change out of Balde, we might see this slight in-game switch that we see from Ten Hag quite often, switching the wide players. It's quite a simple move, but it can be effective. When Balde is forward in possession for Barcelona and he does lose possession, we might see, if Rashford is on this right-hand side, Diogo Dalot in particular with his fantastic progressive passing, Barcelona might be completely out of shape, and that might leave Christensen against Rashford in that right channel. And I fancy Rashford in that right channel against Christensen, right? So that could be an area of the game where Manchester United could get a little bit more joy. If Rashford does switch, Gavi, as I said, Gavi is not going to protect his fullback. He's not going to protect him on that wide area traditionally like a wide player would, because he's not a wide player, right? So he's going to be more sort of in this central area here, and he's obviously going to be in possession. He's going to try and impact the game in this area. So that could be an area where Manchester United can exploit Barcelona on the counter-attack. If Rashford and Sancho do switch sides, you may see something like that there where, okay, Rashford is then isolated against Christensen in the channel. And we've seen Christensen in the Premier League. You know, he's a steady centre-back. He reminds me a little bit of Lindelof. He's not the best one-on-one. He's not particularly physical. He's just a steady player, really. So I do think Rashford against Christensen in that channel, if Balde gets caught too high, could be an area where Manchester United could exploit. What else can we talk about? Let's talk about one more comment. Oh no, that's the old one from Alien Tenno. So yeah, Weghorst for his press. Yeah, doesn't get enough credit. I agree. So let's think about in-game then. So Manchester United, let's say Manchester United are not doing too well in the game. What can Manchester United change from the bench? So one change we've seen very, very often this season is Garnacho coming on. So what we will probably see from what we've seen from Ten Hag this season, it will probably be Sancho to come off, and we'd see Garnacho come on, and Rashford normally goes onto the right-hand side. So very, very often this season we've seen Garnacho, who's done really, really well from the bench. He's come on in that left-hand channel, and Rashford has moved to the right. So he very rarely takes Weghorst off as well. Unless Martial is available, etc. He very, very rarely takes Weghorst off too early in the game. So that is an option we have from the bench, Garnacho. That would obviously give us two really, really direct wide players then. Instead of Sancho or ball to feet, if we want to be much more direct, we need a bit more directness. We need a goal. Then I think this is something that definitely Ten Hag could do. Something else that Ten Hag might do in game, if we are winning the game, which obviously I hope we are, we need to close off the game a little bit. Let's bring Sancho back. So let's say Sancho is still on the pitch. Victor Lindelof this season has been used a lot as a defensive midfield player. So if we are looking to close the game off a little bit, you might see Victor Lindelof coming in alongside Casemiro. We're trying to close the game off. We might have Bruno goes to the right as he very often does. Sancho goes off, and you may well see this sort of shape. So obviously it's the same shape as I talked about earlier in terms of a 4-5-1. It will be very, very similar to that. But you've got another player in there who's capable in these very, very deep areas. So you may well see if Manchester United are sort of in the lead, or if we've got a draw and we want to protect that draw, we may well see that. We've also seen Maguire come on a lot this season to protect a lead. He's very, very good in the box with his head in, very, very dominant there. So we may well see that as well. But that's just a change that we may well make. I thought about this from the start as well, by the way. Lindelof to start the game, but I don't think he's going to do that alongside Casemiro to start with. I don't think he hasn't played there enough to start a game maybe yet in that position. But I do think Manchester United out of possession will be in this sort of shape. So I do think this will be what we'll go with today. But let me know, guys, what you guys think in the comments. What your score predictions are for this game. Sorry about the slight error I made about Christensen and Araujo. It doesn't really make too much difference, hopefully, to your understanding. It's just basically Weghorst will probably come out to this side more. I just got the positions mixed up, the left centre-back, right centre-back. So it will just mean Weghorst will probably go into this area more than he will this area. But yeah, sorry about that, guys, but hopefully it doesn't impact the video too much. It's just about where United can get joy. And again, in this channel, when Balde goes forward, I think that could be an area United can get joy with. Hence, we might see the switch, Rashford and Sancho sort of switching sides. But do let me know, guys, what do you guys think for tonight's game? Are we going to get a draw, a win? Are we going to lose the game? What do you guys think? I personally think it's going to be a tough game, but I do think we will score in this game. I think there is enough. Although Barcelona are very, very good defensively, I think we are scoring in most games. If you actually look, we very, very rarely don't score at the moment. We're maybe not scoring enough goals in those games, but we are still scoring a goal or two here and there. So let me know what you guys think. Jordan says, not expecting much today, but Ten Heisenberg usually cooks up a masterclass. Yep, he does. And that's what, that really is sort of one of my favorite things from this season so far, is how Manchester United have dealt with problems against certain opponents, against sort of in-game, how Ten Hag has tweaked things unexpectedly as well. So he's made a lot of unexpected tweaks as well. So I think, really for me, I think Erik Ten Hag deserves a lot of credit. And I think I do agree with sort of Jordan and what he says about this sort of Ten Heisenberg cooking up a masterclass. And I think that is a great thing we've got with this manager now, this sort of the in-game tweaks he makes. I think I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for 1-1 draw. I don't know whether that's optimistic, pessimistic. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I do think we will get a result. I think Casemiro coming back in is a big, big plus. I think if you look at the tactical elements that I've put on there, I think Sancho is going to have a key role. I think we never expect Marcus Rashford to be disciplined defensively sort of in these type of games because he's our only outlet in behind. I do think Sancho's positioning is going to be very, very vital. And I think if we get it wrong in midfield, if we don't have enough numbers in that midfield area, I do think we will lose the game. And I'm going on the basis that I trust my manager. I trust our manager to do a good job in this and put the right sort of team out, have the right elements in place, make sure that we have those central areas covered. I think away at Arsenal, we didn't do that enough. I think that's a big reason why we allowed Arsenal too much space and too much dominance. We didn't. I know Casemiro wasn't playing, and that maybe he would have set up differently if he was playing. But I think away at Arsenal, we didn't set up right. So hopefully we set it right in this game. And yeah, hopefully we do get a result. We've obviously got the second leg to come next week. We've got Leicester at home on Sunday. And then obviously we've got the cup final next Sunday. So we've got a lot of football. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next week with Erik ten Hag. How does he set up next week? How is he going to change things depending on this result today? If we do get a really, really good result today, will he rest players next week? If we get beaten by 2 or more goals today, does he just say, forget the Europa League and focus on the League Cup final? So really, really interesting dynamic, guys. I really, really appreciate all the support. Get your score predictions in below, guys, please, for everybody watching. And yeah, as always, please do like if you enjoy. Please do subscribe if you're new. And yeah, we'll be back. We'll probably be back in the next couple of days after the Barcelona game. If there's anything interesting tactically to analyse, I'll be back with that after the Barcelona game. But as always, guys, please do keep showing your support. I really, really appreciate that. JP Solvent, yeah, Elanga to negate Balde, Alba. Yeah, I think Sancho is as good as Elanga is defensively off the ball for me. I don't think there's a great deal of difference. Elanga's not played many minutes, so I'll be surprised if Elanga's brought in. But I do think that is definitely an area to negate, and that's why I think Sancho will play on that right-hand side, because Sancho off the ball, out of possession, he's more of a traditional winger, sort of wide midfielder rather than a forward. So I think that's why I think Sancho will play. But I understand that, but I don't think Elanga's played many minutes, so I don't think you're going to see him start this game unless there's an injury to Sancho. Jordan says 2 on Barcelona. I don't think that would be a horrendous result. And obviously we never like to lose games, but that would still keep us in it for the second leg. But I do think we'll score. But I think defensively, I think the amount of threats that Barcelona have, how technically secure sort of Gavi and Pedri are in those half spaces, central areas, obviously it's going to be difficult. But as always, guys, please do like and subscribe. I'll be back in the next few days, probably talking about this Barcelona game. We'll do a tactical video. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, hopefully we get a result tonight. Cheers, guys.